Is that mysterious Loki variant actually Loki? It is Thursday, my dudes, but today we're talking all about Loki because the God of Mischief is front and center in one of the weirdest, wildest Disney Plus shows in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And episode 2 upped the ante with major revelations, shocking reveals, and an ending that has huge ramifications, not just for Loki, but for the rest of the MCU as we know it. And while we broke down all the biggest Easter eggs, deep dive, references, and details that you might have missed in our Frost Giant-sized episode breakdown yesterday, today we can't stop thinking about those big reveals at the end of episode 2, The Variant, which, as you may have guessed, deal with both our variant of Loki, L1130, and that hooded figure who's been systematically hunting down members of the Time Variance Authority. Now, if you're anything like us, your first thought at the end of episode 2 is that something smells fishy here.
What's a fish?
However, in order to talk about this big reveal, we do need to kind of spoil what happens in the show, so if you haven't seen this episode yet, why not take this opportunity to make yourself a nice Asgard salad so you can catch up and watch this video immediately after.
There it is.
Alright, let's get into it, shall we? During episode 2, The Variant, we learn exactly who is beneath that shadowy black hood, the identity of the person that's been ambushing Time Variance Authority agents across the sacred timeline, stealing their reset charges, and even kidnapping people like Hunter C-20. As we were told previously, this is a Loki variant, but not just any Loki variant. It's Sophia DiMartino as, surprise, Lady Loki. At least that's what Marvel and the TVA want us to think for the time being, because remember, this is a series all about the God of Mischief. It's a constant game of cat and mouse. Each party is trying to deceive the other through overt falsehoods, conveniently omitted important information, and or misdirections with the promise of rewards to come. But with all of that said, there's mounting evidence that this Loki variant might not be a Loki variant at all. So with that said, let's examine the 3 likeliest possibilities. Option number 1, she is Lady Loki. While Loki is canonically gender fluid, both in the comics and the television show, the chance to have Tom Hiddleston's Loki interacting with other Lokis all across the gender and space-time spectrum is too rich to pass up for a series that literally just created the multiverse at the end of its 2nd episode. Following the events of Ragnarok in the Thor Disassembled story arc, the God of Thunder found himself reborn in Brockton, Oklahoma, and there he discovered there's a brand new female version of Loki in town who's up to all of the God of Mischief's usual tricks. First introduced by J. Michael Straczynski and Olivier Coipel in Thor Volume 3, Number 5, Lady Loki, as this character came to be known, was the Marvel Universe's reigning God of Mischief for quite some time. During the sprawling Dark Reign storyline, Lady Loki became a part of the Cabal, a Norman Osborn-led shadowy group of villainous and anti-heroic power brokers like Emma Frost, Doctor Doom, Namor, and the Hood, and she used Osborn's help to get Thor banished and seize control of Asgard for herself. So clearly it's the same Loki we all know and love, and she even secretly replaced Scarlet Witch for a period of time to trick Earth's mightiest heroes during a battle against the Elder God Chthon. Remember Chthon? The Darkhold? Those were fun videos. Anyway, in 2014's original Sin Thor and Loki the 10th Realm storyline, we learn that Lady Loki is one of several versions of Loki, or variants, that exist inside the God of Mischief, alongside others like Kid Loki, who is also rumored to appear in this show. Both J. Michael Straczynski and Olivier Coipel are thanked in the end credits, which is yet another clue that this is in fact Lady Loki. And her look is straight out of Loki, Agent of Asgard, complete with the horned headband to boot, so the clues are there. Besides, if we are heading into a multiverse of madness, it makes sense that another variant of Loki could be out there somewhere, and the only reason why she couldn't have blonde hair is that our imagination is just too small. The whole idea of a multiverse is one of infinite possibilities. But if the Time Variance Authority is so quick to prune branch timelines and protect the sacred timeline, how did this Lady Loki variant escape to cause so much chaos? Is this actually Lady Loki, or is it someone else? Which brings us to option number 2, the Enchantress. So, during the Avengers Endgame length closing credits, eagle-eyed fans out there spotted something fascinating during the Spanish language voice credits. Rather than being referred to as the variant like Sophia DiMartino is credited as in the English language credits, she is referred to as Sylvie. And as it turns out, there is a major character in Thor lore with connections to the God of Mischief in the comics named Sylvie, the Enchantress, aka Sylvie Lushton. When Mobius briefs Loki L1130 and the rest of the Time Variance Authority agents before they go to investigate the scene of the crime in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we learn all about the power sets that most Loki variants tend to have, and they revolve around things like illusions and duplication casting. However, multiple times in episode 2 we see a power from Loki that we're not necessarily used to seeing without the aid of the Mind Stone, and that is possession, or, more accurately as Loki calls it, enchantment.
Enchantment is a clever trick. Cowardly. A bit amateurish, but clever.
While Loki is able to issue commands to people like Clint Barton in Avengers when he's under the influence of the Mind Stone, and whatever spell he casts on Odin to banish his adoptive Allfather to Earth and Thor the Dark World, this Loki variant seems capable of using anyone she chooses like her own personal meat puppet. And that leads us to believe the clues were right there in the script all along. She uses enchantments because she's the Enchantress. Huh? Come on. Although the original Enchantress named Amora was a powerful Asgardian sorceress who had a long history with Loki, including both alliances and betrayals most foul, this version seems to be more inspired by Sylvie Lushton, a character created by Paul Cornell and Mark Brooks in 2009's Dark Reign Young Avengers #1. Sylvie was a normal girl living in Broxton, Oklahoma, who one day woke up to find that she has magical powers, which unbeknownst to her, were given to her by Loki, who apparently woke up one day and chose violence because he thought it would be funny to see what happened. So perhaps Sylvie here isn't actually a Loki variant at all. Rather, she could have been created or imbued with power by another Loki variant, maybe that rumored old man Loki that could be played by Richard E. Grant sometime later in the series. And she wants to sabotage the sacred timeline and wrest control of the multiverse away from the equally cagey timekeepers and the TVA. After all, in the comics, the revelation that Sylvie was basically Loki's magical human experiment did not exactly sit well with her, so perhaps that could explain why she so vehemently tells our God of Mischief not to call her Loki.
Ugh, don't call me that.
In the comics, though, when the real Enchantress, Amora, discovers that Sylvie is not only pretending to be her, using a fake Asgardian accent, and using her name to join groups like the Illuminati under false pretenses, she tracked Sylvie down and banished her to one of the 10 realms of Asgard as punishment to see if she would survive. So what if instead of those 10 realms, Sylvie was banished from her timeline, and she's trying to restore the multiverse to see if she can get home again? Because as with any story involving endless potential realities and multiple timelines, anything could happen.
That's not possible.
And speaking of which, that brings us to option number 3, she is both and none.
Yes, maybe.
As we learned during WandaVision, sometimes a Ralph Boner is just a Ralph Boner. Not everything is Mephisto. Sometimes aerospace engineers are just brand new characters. This potential Loki variant could just be a Loki variant. She could be a blend of Enchantress from the comics with the God of Mischief. Or she could be someone else entirely, a character whose true identity we don't yet know. And I know this option does feel like a bit of a cop-out, but it's important that we don't let confirmation bias get us so lost in the sauce that we drown in Asgardian salad dressing in the process, because, as we've seen, it's a pretty messy soup.
What am I looking at? Okay, it was a clumsy metaphor, but you see what I mean.
So, although I would love for either option 1 or option 2 to be true, I am fully prepared for option 3 because regardless of who the variant actually is, she just detonated a whole bunch of time bombs and effectively created Marvel's multiverse. And she did so, as our dear friend and colleague Koijandra pointed out, on June 16th, aka 616. The main Marvel continuity in the comics is Earth 616. It's all connected! So whether she's Enchantress or Lady Loki or both of them standing on each other's shoulders in a fine Asgardian leather trench coat, she just made Marvel history. And our God of Mischief is going to have his hands full as he tries to outwit another powerful spellcaster and the Time Variance Authority during the rest of Loki Season 1.
Damn it!
Anyway, folks, in the meantime, tell us, what do you think of these theories? Who do you think that variant actually is and why? Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.